Bible in Basic English. The second book of Chronicles. Chapter 1. And Solomon, the son of David, made himself strong in his kingdom, and the Lord his God was with him, and made him very great. And Solomon sent word to all Israel, to the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and to the judges, and to every chief in all Israel, heads of their families. Then Solomon, and all the men of Israel with him, went to the high place at Gibeon, because the tent of meeting of God, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, had made in the waste land, was there. But the ark of God had been moved by David from Kiriath-Jearim to the place which he had made ready for it, for he had put up a tent for it at Jerusalem. And the altar of brass which Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, had made, was there before the tent of the Lord, and Solomon and all the people went to give worship there. And Solomon went up there to the brass altar before the Lord at the tent of meeting, offering on it 1,000 burnt offerings. In that night God came to Solomon in a vision, and said to him, "Say what I am to give you." And Solomon said to God, "Great was your mercy to David my father, and you have made me king in his place. Now, O Lord God, let your word to David my father come true, for you have made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in number. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, so that I may go out and come in before this people, for who is able to be the judge of this great people of yours?" And God said to Solomon, "Because this was in your heart, and you did not make request for money, property, or honor, or for the destruction of your haters, or for long life, but you have made request for wisdom and knowledge for yourself, so that you may be the judge of my people over whom I have made you king. Wisdom and knowledge are given to you, and I will give you wealth and honor, such as no king has had before you or ever will have after you." So Solomon went back from the high place at Gibeon, from before the tent of meeting, to Jerusalem, and he was king over Israel. And Solomon got together war carriages and horsemen. He had 1,400 carriages and 12,000 horsemen, which he kept, some in the carriage towns and some with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver and gold as common as stones in Jerusalem, and cedar like the sycamore trees of the lowland in number. And Solomon's horses came out of Egypt. The king's traders got them from Kue at a price. A war carriage might be got from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. They got them at the same rate for all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Aram. Chapter 2. Now it was Solomon's purpose to put up a house for the name of the Lord and a house for himself as king. And Solomon had 70,000 men numbered for transport, and 80,000 for cutting stone in the mountains, and 3,600 as overseers. And Solomon sent to Huram, king of Tyre, saying, "As you did for my father David, sending him cedar trees for the building of his house. See, I am building a house for the name of the Lord my God, to be made holy to him, where perfumes of sweet spices will be burned before him, and the holy bread will be placed at all times, and burnt offerings will be offered morning and evening, on the Sabbaths and at the new moons, and on the regular feasts of the Lord our God. This is a law forever to Israel. And the house which I am building is to be great, for our God is greater than all gods. But who may have strength enough to make a house for him, seeing that the heaven and the heaven of heavens are not wide enough to be his resting place? Who am I then to make a house for him? But I am building it only for the burning of perfume before him. So now send me an expert worker in gold and silver and brass and iron, in purple and red and blue, and in the cutting of all sorts of ornament, to be with the expert workmen who are here in Judah and in Jerusalem, whom my father David got together. And send me cedar trees, cypress trees and sandal wood from Lebanon, for, to my knowledge, your servants are expert woodcutters in Lebanon, and my servants will be with yours, to get trees for me in great numbers, for the house which I am building is to be great and a wonder. And I will give as food to your servants, The woodcutters 20,000 measures of grain, and 20,000 measures of barley, and 20,000 measures of wine, and 20,000 measures of oil. Then Huram, king of Tyre, sent Solomon an answer in writing, saying, "Because of his love for his people the Lord has made you king over them." And Huram said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, maker of heaven and earth, who has given to David the king a wise son, full of wisdom and good sense, to be the builder of a house for the Lord and a house for himself as king. And now I am sending you a wise and expert man, Huram, who is as my father, the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan, whose father was a man of Tyre, an expert worker in gold and silver and brass and iron, in stone and wood, in purple and blue and fair linen and red, trained in the cutting of every sort of ornament and the invention of every sort of design. Let him be given a place among your expert workmen and those of my lord, your father David. So now let my lord send to his servants the grain and the oil and the wine as my lord has said, and we will have wood cut from Lebanon, as much as you have need of, and will send it to you on flat boats by sea to Joppa, and from there you may take it up to Jerusalem." Then Solomon took the number of all the men from strange lands who were living in Israel, as his father David had done. There were 153,600. 70,000 he put to the work of transport, 80,000 to cutting stone in the mountains, and 3,600 as overseers to put the people to work. Chapter 3. Then Solomon started building the house of the Lord on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, where the Lord had been seen by his father David, in the place which David had made ready in the grain floor of Ornan the Jebusite. The building was started in the 2nd month in the 4th year of his rule. And Solomon put the base of the house of God in position. By the old measure it was 60 cubits long and 20 cubits wide, and the covered way in front of the house was 20 cubits long, as wide as the house, and 120 cubits high, all plated inside with the best gold. And the greater house was roofed with cypress wood, plated with the best gold and ornamented with designs of palm trees and chains. And the house was made beautiful with stones of great value, and the gold was gold of Parvaim. All the house was plated with gold, the supports, the steps, the walls and the doors, and the walls were ornamented with designs of winged ones. And he made the most holy place. It was 20 cubits long, and 20 cubits wide, like the greater house, and was plated all over with the best gold. 600 talents were used for it, and 50 shekels weight of gold was used for the nails. He had all the higher rooms plated with gold. And in the most holy place he made images of 2 winged beings, covering them with gold. Their outstretched wings were 20 cubits across, one wing, 5 cubits long, touching the wall of the house, and the other, of the same size, meeting the wing of the other winged one. And in the same way, the wings of the other, 5 cubits long, were stretched out, one touching the wall and the other meeting the wing of the first winged one. Their outstretched wings were 20 cubits across. They were placed upright on their feet, facing the inner part of the house. And he made the veil of blue and purple and red, of the best linen, worked with winged ones. And in front of the house he made 2 pillars, 35 cubits high, with crowns on the tops of them, 5 cubits high. And he made chains, like neck ornaments, and put them on the tops of the pillars, and 100 apples on the chains. He put up the pillars in front of the temple, one on the right side and one on the left, naming the one on the right Jachin and that on the left Boaz. Chapter 4. Then he made a brass altar, 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide and 10 cubits high. And he made the great water vessel of metal, round in form, measuring 10 cubits across from edge to edge. It was 5 cubits high and 30 cubits round. and under it was a design of flowers all round it, 10 to a cubit, circling the water vessel in 2 lines. They were made from liquid metal at the same time as the water vessel. It was supported on 12 oxen, 3 facing to the north, 3 to the west, 3 to the south, and 3 to the east, the water vessel resting on top of them. Their back parts were all turned to the middle of it. It was as thick as a man's open hand, and the edge of it was curved like the edge of a cup, like a lily flower. It would take 3,000 baths. And he made 10 washing vessels, putting 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. Such things as were used in making the burnt offering were washed in them, but the great water vessel was to be used by the priests for washing themselves. And he made the 10 gold supports for the lights, as directions had been given for them, and he put them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. He made 10 tables, and put them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. And he made 100 gold basins. Then he made the open space for the priests, and the great open space and its doors, plating the doors with brass. He put the great water vessel on the right side of the house to the east, facing south. And Huram made all the pots and the spades and the basins. So he came to the end of all the work he did for King Solomon in the house of God, the 2 pillars, and the 2 crowns on the tops of the pillars, and the network covering the 2 cups of the crowns on the tops of the pillars, and the 400 apples for the network, 2 lines of apples for the network covering the 2 cups of the crowns on the pillars. And he made the 10 bases and the 10 washing vessels which were on the bases, the great water vessel with the 12 oxen under it, all the pots and the spades and the meat hooks and their vessels, which Huram, who was as his father, made for King Solomon for the house of the Lord, were of polished brass. The king made them of liquid metal in the lowland of Jordan, in the soft earth between Succoth and Zeradah. So Solomon made all these vessels, a very great store of them, and the weight of the brass used was not measured. And Solomon made all the vessels used in the house of God, the gold altar and the tables on which the holy bread was placed, and the supports for the lights with their lights, to be burning in the regular way in front of the inmost room, of the best gold. The flowers and the vessels for the lights and the instruments used for them, were all of gold. It was the best gold. The scissors and the basins and the spoons and the fire trays, of the best gold, and the inner doors of the house, opening into the most holy place, and the doors of the temple, were all of gold. Chapter 5. So all the work which Solomon did for the house of the Lord was complete. And Solomon took the holy things which David his father had given, the silver and the gold and all the vessels, and put them in the storehouses of the house of God. Then Solomon sent for all the responsible men of Israel, all the chiefs of the tribes and the heads of families of the children of Israel, to come to Jerusalem and take the ark of the Lord's agreement up out of the town of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel came together to the king at the feast in the 7th month. All the responsible men of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark. They took up the ark in the tent of meeting and all the holy vessels which were in the tent, all these the priests, the Levites, took up. And King Solomon and all the men of Israel who had come together there with him, were before the ark, making offerings of sheep and oxen more than might be numbered. And the priests took the ark of the Lord's agreement and put it in its place, in the inner room of the house, in the most holy place, under the wings of the winged ones. For their wings were outstretched over the place where the ark was, covering the ark and its rods. The rods were so long that their ends were seen from the holy place before the inmost room, but they were not seen from outside, and there they are to this day. Nothing was in the ark but the 2 flat stones which Moses put there at Horeb, where the Lord made an agreement with the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. Now when the priests had come out of the holy place, for all the priests who were present had made themselves holy, not keeping to their divisions, and the Levites who made the music, all of them, Asaph, Heman, Jeduthun, and their sons and brothers, robed in fair linen, were in their places with their brass and corded instruments at the east side of the altar, and with them 120 priests blowing horns. And when the players on horns, and those who made melody and song, with one voice were sounding the praise and glory of the Lord, with loud voices and with wind instruments, and brass and corded instruments of music, praising the Lord and saying, He is good, His mercy is unchanging forever, then the house was full of the cloud of the glory of the Lord, so that the priests were not able to keep their places to do their work because of the cloud, for the house of God was full of the glory of the Lord. Chapter 6. Then Solomon said, O Lord, to the sun you have given the heaven for a living place, but your living place was not seen by men, so I have made for you a living place, a house in which you may be forever present. Then, turning his face about, the king gave a blessing to all the men of Israel, and they were all on their feet together. And he said, Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who himself gave his word to my father David, and with his strong hand has made his word come true, saying, From the day when I took my people out of the land of Egypt, no town in all the tribes of Israel has been marked out by me for the building of a house for the resting place of my name, and I took no man to be a ruler over my people Israel, but now I have made selection of Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and of David, to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of my father David to put up a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to David my father, You did well to have in your heart the desire to make a house for my name, but you yourself will not be the builder of the house, but your son, the offspring of your body, he it is who will put up a house for my name. And the Lord was kept his word, for I have taken my father David's place on the seat of the kingdom of Israel, as the Lord gave his word, and I have made the house for the name of the Lord the God of Israel. And there I have put the ark, in which is the agreement of the Lord, which he made with the people of Israel. Then he took his place in front of the altar of the Lord, all the men of Israel being present, for Solomon had made a brass stage, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide and 3 cubits high, and had put it in the middle of the open space. On this he took his place and went down on his knees before all the meeting of Israel, stretching out his hands to heaven, and he said, O Lord, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven or on earth, keeping faith and mercy unchanging for your servants, while they go in your ways with all their hearts, for you have kept the word which you gave to your servant David, my father. With your mouth you said it, and with your hand you have made it come true this day. So now, O Lord, the God of Israel, let your word to your servant David, my father, come true, when you said, You will never be without a man to take his place before me on the seat of the kingdom of Israel. If only your children give attention to their ways, walking in my law, as you have done before me. So now, O Lord, the God of Israel, make your word come true which you said to your servant David. But is it truly possible that God may be housed with men on earth? See, heaven and the heaven of heavens are not wide enough to be your resting place, how much less this house which I have made. Still, let your heart be turned to the prayer of your servant and to his prayer for grace, O Lord my God, and give ear to the cry and the prayer which your servant makes before you, that your eyes may be open to this house day and night, to this place of which you have said that you would put your name there, to give ear to the prayer which your servant may make, turning to this place. And give ear to the prayers of your servant and of your people Israel, when they make their prayers, turning to this place. Give ear from heaven your living place, and hearing have mercy. If a man does wrong to his neighbor and has to take an oath, and comes before your altar to take his oath in this house, then let your ear be open in heaven, and be the judge of your servants, giving punishment to the wrongdoer, so that his sin may come on his head, and, by your decision, keeping from evil him who has done no wrong. And if your people Israel are overcome in war, because of their sin against you, if they are turned to you again, honoring your name, making prayers and requesting your grace in this house, Then give ear from heaven, and let the sin of your people Israel have forgiveness, and take them back again to the land which you gave to them and to their fathers. When heaven is shut up and there is no rain, because of their sin against you, if they make prayers with their faces turned to this place, honoring your name and turning away from their sin when you send trouble on them, then give ear from heaven, so that the sin of your servants and the sin of your people Israel may have forgiveness, when you make clear to them the good way in which they are to go, and send rain on your land which you have given to your people for their heritage. If there is no food in the land, if there is disease, if the fruits of the earth are damaged by heat or water, locust or worm, if their towns are shut in by their attackers, whatever trouble or whatever disease there may be, whatever prayer or request for your grace is made by any man, or by all your people Israel, whatever his trouble may be, whose hands are stretched out to this house, then give ear from heaven your living place, answering with forgiveness, and give to every man, whose secret heart is open to you, the reward of all his ways. For you, and you only, have knowledge of the hearts of the children of men, so that they may give you worship, walking in your ways, as long as they are living in the land which you gave to our fathers. And as for the man from a strange land, who is not of your people Israel but comes from a far country because of the glory of your name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, when he comes to make his prayer, turning to this house, then give ear from heaven your living place, and give him his desire, whatever it may be, so that all the peoples of the earth may have knowledge of your name, worshipping you as do your people Israel, and may see that this house which I have made is truly named by your name. If your people go out to war against their attackers, by whatever way you may send them, if they make their prayers to you turning their faces to this town of yours and to this house which I have put up for your name, then give ear from heaven to their prayer and their cry for grace, and see right unto them. If they do wrong against you, for no man is without sin, and you are angry with them, and give them up into the power of those who are fighting against them, so that they take them away prisoners to a land far off or near, and if they take thought, in the land where they are prisoners, turning again to you, crying out in prayer to you in that land, and saying, We are sinners, we have done wrong, we have done evil, if with all their heart and soul they are turned again to you, in the land where they are prisoners, the land where they have been taken, and make their prayers, turning their eyes to their land which you gave to their fathers, and to the town which you took for yourself, and the house which I have made for your name, then give ear from heaven your living place to their prayer and their cry, and see right unto them, answering with forgiveness your people who have done wrong against you. Now, O my God, may your eyes be open and your ears awake to the prayers made in this place. Up. Now, O Lord God, come back to your resting place, you and the ark of your strength. Let your priests, O Lord God, be clothed with salvation, and let your saints be glad in what is good. O Lord God, let him whom you have taken for yourself never be given up by you. Keep in mind your mercies to David your servant. Chapter 7. Now when Solomon's prayers were ended, fire came down from heaven, burning up all the offerings, and the house was full of the glory of the Lord. And the priests were not able to go into the house of the Lord, for the Lord's house was full of the glory of the Lord. And all the children of Israel were looking on when the fire came down, and the glory of the Lord was on the house, and they went down on their knees, with their faces to the earth, worshipping and praising the Lord, and saying, He is good, for his mercy is unchanging forever. Then the king and all the people made offerings before the Lord. King Solomon made an offering of 22,000 oxen, and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people kept the feast of the opening of the house of God. And the priests were in their places, and the Levites with their instruments of music for the Lord's song, which David the king had made for the praise of the Lord whose mercy is unchanging forever, when David gave praise by their hand, and the priests were sounding horns before them, and all Israel were on their feet. Then Solomon made holy the middle of the open square in front of the house of the Lord, offering the burnt offerings there, and the fat of the peace offerings. For there was not room on the brass altar which Solomon had made for all the burnt offerings and the meal offerings and the fat. So Solomon kept the feast at that time for 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great meeting, for the people had come together from the way into Hamath and from as far as the river of Egypt. And on the 8th day they had a holy meeting. The offerings for making the altar holy went on for 7 days, and the feast for 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people away to their tents, full of joy and glad in their hearts, because of all the good which the Lord had done to David and to Solomon and to Israel his people. So Solomon came to the end of building the house of the Lord and the king's house, and everything which it was in his mind to make in the house of the Lord and for himself had been well done. Now the Lord came to Solomon in a vision by night, and said to him, I have given ear to your prayer, and have taken this place for myself as a house where offerings are to be made. If, at my word, heaven is shut up, so that there is no rain, or if I send locusts on the land for its destruction, or if I send disease on my people, if my people, on whom my name is named, make themselves low and come to me in prayer, searching for me and turning from their evil ways, then I will give ear from heaven, overlooking their sin, and will give life again to their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ears awake to the prayers made in this place. For I have taken this house for myself and made it holy, so that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there at all times. And as for you, if you will go on your way before me as David your father did, doing whatever I have given you orders to do and keeping my laws and my decisions, then I will make strong the seat of your kingdom, as I gave my word to David your father, saying, You will never be without a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you are turned away from me, and do not keep my orders and my laws which I have put before you, but go and make yourselves servants to other gods, giving them worship, then I will have this people uprooted out of my land which I have given them, and this house, which I have made holy for my name, I will put away from before my eyes, and make it an example and a word of shame among all peoples. And this house will become a mass of broken walls, and everyone who goes by will be overcome with wonder, and will say, Why has the Lord done so to this land and to this house? And their answer will be, Because they were turned away from the Lord, the God of their fathers, who took them out of the land of Egypt, and took for themselves other gods and gave them worship and became their servants. That is why he has sent all this evil on them. Chapter 8. Now at the end of 20 years, in which time Solomon had put up the house of the Lord and a house for himself, he took in hand the building up of the towns which Hiram had given him, causing the children of Israel to make living places for themselves there. And Solomon went to Hamath Azobah and overcame it. And he put up the buildings of Tadmor in the waste land, and of all the store towns in Hamath, and of Beth-Oron the higher and the lower, walled towns with walls and doorways and locks, and of Berlath, and all the store towns which Solomon had, and the towns where he kept his war carriages and his horsemen, and everything which it was his pleasure to put up in Jerusalem and in Lebanon and in all the land under his rule. As for all the rest of the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, who were not of Israel, their men who were still living in the land, and whom the children of Israel had not put an end to, these Solomon put to forced work, as is done to this day. But Solomon did not make use of the children of Israel as servants for his work. They were men of war, his chiefs and his captains, and captains of his war carriages and his horsemen. Now these were the chief men in authority whom King Solomon had, 250 of them, in authority over the people. Then Solomon made Pharaoh's daughter come up from the town of David to the house which he had made for her. For he said, I will not have my wife living in the house of David, king of Israel, because those places where the ark of the Lord was come are holy. Then Solomon made burnt offerings to the Lord on the altar of the Lord which he had put up in front of the covered way, offering every day what has been ordered by Moses, on the Sabbaths and at the new moon and at the regular feasts 3 times a year, that is at the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of weeks, and the feast of tents. And he gave the divisions of the priests their places for their work, as ordered by his father David, and to the Levites he gave their work of praise and waiting on the priests, to do what was needed day by day, and he gave the doorkeepers their places in turn at every door, for so David, the man of God, had given orders. All the orders given by the king to the priests and Levites, in connection with any business or stores, were done with care. And all the work of Solomon was complete, from the day when he put the base of the Lord's house in position, till Solomon had come to the end of building the Lord's house. Then Solomon went to Ezion-Geber and to Eloth by the sea in the land of Edom. And Huram sent him, by his servants, ships and experienced seamen, who went with the servants of Solomon to Ophir and came back with 450 talents of gold, which they took to King Solomon. Chapter 9. Now the Queen of Sheba, hearing great things of Solomon, came to Jerusalem to put his wisdom to the test with hard questions, and with her came a very great train, and camels weighted down with spices, and great stores of gold and jewels. And when she came to Solomon she had talk with him of everything in her mind. And Solomon gave her answers to all her questions, there was no secret which he did not make clear to her. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, and the house which he had made, and the food at his table, and all his servants seated there, and those who were waiting on him in their places, and their robes, and his wine servants in their robes, and the burnt offerings which he made in the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, "The account which was given to me in my country of your acts and your wisdom was true. But I had no faith in what was said about you, till I came and saw for myself, and truly, word was not given me of half your great wisdom. You are much greater than they said. Happy are your wives and happy these your servants whose place is ever before you, hearing your words of wisdom. Praise be to the Lord your God whose pleasure it was to put you on the seat of his kingdom to be king for the Lord your God, because, in his love for Israel, it was the purpose of your God to make them strong forever. He made you king over them, to be their judge in righteousness." And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and a great store of spices and jewels. Never had such spices been seen as the Queen of Sheba gave to Solomon. And the servants of Huram and the servants of Solomon, in addition to gold from Ophir, came back with sandalwood and jewels. And with the sandalwood the king made steps for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, and instruments of music for the makers of melody. Never before had such been seen in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she made request for, in addition to what she had taken to the king. So she went back to her country with her servants. Now the weight of gold which came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents, and in addition to what he got from traders of different sorts, all the kings of Arabia and the rulers of the country gave gold and silver to Solomon. And King Solomon made 200 body covers of hammered gold, every one having 600 shekels of gold in it. And he made 300 smaller body covers of hammered gold, using 300 shekels of gold for every cover, and the king put them in a house of the woods of Lebanon. Then the king made a great ivory seat, plated with the best gold. There were 6 steps up to it, and a footrest of gold fixed to it, and arms on the 2 sides of the seat, with 2 lions at the side of the arms. And 12 lions were placed on one side and on the other side on the 6 steps. There was nothing like it in any kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the woods of Lebanon were of the best gold. No one gave a thought to silver in the days of Solomon. For the king had Tarshish ships sailing with the servants of Huram. Once every 3 years the Tarshish ships came back with gold and silver, ivory and monkeys and peacocks. And King Solomon was greater than all the kings of the earth in wealth and in wisdom. And all the kings of the earth came to see Solomon and to give ear to his wisdom, which God had put into his heart. And everyone took with him an offering, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and robes, and coats of metal, and spices, and horses and beasts for transport, regularly year by year. Solomon had 4,000 buildings for his horses and his war carriages, and 12,000 horsemen whom he kept, some in the carriage towns and some with the king in Jerusalem. And he was a ruler over all the kings from the river to the land of the Philistines, as far as the limit of Egypt. The king made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem and cedars like the sycamore trees of the lowlands in number. They got horses for Solomon from Egypt and from every land. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not recorded in the history of Nathan the prophet, and in the words of Ahijah the prophet of Shiloh, and in the visions of Edo the seer about Jeroboam, the son of Nebat? Solomon was king over Israel and Jerusalem for 40 years. And Solomon went to rest with his fathers, and was put into the earth in the town of David his father, and Rehoboam his son became king in his place. Chapter 10. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, where all Israel had come together to make him king. And when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, had news of it, for he was in Egypt where he had gone in flight from King Solomon, he came back from Egypt. And they sent for him, and Jeroboam and all Israel came to Rehoboam and said, Your father put a hard yoke on us. If you will make the conditions under which your father kept us down less cruel, and the weight of the yoke he put on us less hard, then we will be your servants. And he said to them, Come to me again after 3 days. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took the opinion of the old men who had been with Solomon his father when he was living, and said, In your opinion, what answer am I to give to this people? And they said to him, If you are kind to this people, pleasing them and saying good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he gave no attention to the opinion of the old men, but went to the young men of his generation who were waiting before him, and he said to them, What is your opinion? What answer are we to give to this people who have said to me, Make less the weight of the yoke which your father put on us? And the young men of his generation said to him, This is the answer to give to the people who came to you saying, Your father put a hard yoke on us, but will you make it less? Say to them, My little finger is thicker than my father's body. If my father put a hard yoke on you, I will make it harder. My father gave you punishment with whips, but I will give you blows with snakes. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king had given orders, saying, Come to me again on the 3rd day. And the king gave them a rough answer. So King Rehoboam gave no attention to the suggestion of the old men, but gave them the answer put forward by the young men, saying, My father made your yoke hard, but I will make it harder. My father gave you punishment with whips, but I will give it with snakes. So the king did not give ear to the people, for this came about by the purpose of God, so that the Lord might give effect to his word which he had said by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And when all Israel saw that the king would give no attention to them, the people in answer said to the king, What part have we in David? What is our heritage in the son of Jesse? Every man to your tents, O Israel, now see to your house, David. So all Israel went to their tents. But Rehoboam was still king over those of the children of Israel who were living in the towns of Judah. Then Rehoboam sent Adoniram, the overseer of the forced work, and he was stoned to death by all Israel. And King Rehoboam went quickly and got into his carriage to go in flight to Jerusalem. So Israel was turned away from the family of David to this day. Chapter 11. And Rehoboam came to Jerusalem, and got together the men of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 of his best fighting men, to make war against Israel and get the kingdom back for Rehoboam. But the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Say to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel and Judah and Benjamin, the Lord has said, You are not to go to war against your brothers, let every man go back to his house, for this thing is my purpose. So they gave ear to the words of the Lord and returned back from fighting against Jeroboam. Now Rehoboam kept in Jerusalem, building walled towns in Judah. He was the builder of Bethlehem and Etam and Tekoa and Beth-Azur and Soko and Adullam and Gath and Mareshah and Ziph and Adoraim and Lachish and Azekah and Zorah and Aijalon and Hebron, walled towns in Judah and Benjamin. And he made the walled towns strong, and he put captains in them and stores of food, oil, and wine. And in every town he put stores of body covers and spears, and made them very strong. And Judah and Benjamin were his. And the priests and Levites who were in all Israel came together to him from every part of their country. For the Levites gave up their living places and their property, and came to Judah and Jerusalem, for Jeroboam and his sons had sent them away, not letting them be priests to the Lord, and he himself made priests for the high places, and for the images of the goats and oxen which he had made. And after them, from all the tribes of Israel, all those whose hearts were fixed and true to the Lord, the God of Israel, came to Jerusalem to make offerings to the Lord, the God of the fathers. So they went on increasing the power of the kingdom of Judah, and made Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, strong for 3 years, and for 3 years they went in the ways of David and Solomon. And Rehoboam took as his wife Mahalath, the daughter of Jeremoth, the son of David, and of Abihail, the daughter of Eliab, the son of Jesse. And she had sons by him, Josh, Shemariah, and Zaam. And after her he took Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. And she had Aviah and Aday and Caesar and Shelemith by him. Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, was dearer to Rehoboam than all his wives and his servant wives, for he had 18 wives and 60 servant wives, and was the father of 28 sons and 60 daughters. Rehoboam made Aviah, the son of Maacah, chief and ruler among his brothers, for it was his purpose to make him king. And in his wisdom he had his sons stationed in every walled town through all the lands of Judah and Benjamin, and he gave them a great store of food, and took wives for them. Chapter 12. Now when Rehoboam's position as king had been made certain, and he was strong, he gave up the law of the Lord, and all Israel with him. Now in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, because of their sin against the Lord, with 1,200 war carriages and 60,000 horsemen, and the people who came with him out of Egypt were more than might be numbered, Lubim and Sukkiim and Ethiopians. And he took the walled towns of Judah, and came as far as Jerusalem. Now Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and the chiefs of Judah, who had come together in Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said to them, The Lord has said, Because you have given me up, I have given you up into the hands of Shishak. Then the chiefs of Israel and the king made themselves low and said, The Lord is upright. And the Lord, seeing that they had made themselves low, said to Shemaiah, They have made themselves low. I will not send destruction on them, but in a short time I will give them salvation, and will not let loose my wrath on Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. But still they will become his servants, so that they may see how different my yoke is from the yoke of the kingdoms of the lands. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away all the stored wealth of the house of the Lord and the king's house. He took everything away, and with the rest the gold body covers which Solomon had made. And in their place King Rehoboam had other body covers made of brass and gave them into the care of the captains of the armed men who were stationed at the door of the king's house. And whenever the king went into the house of the Lord, the armed men went with him taking the body covers, and then took them back to their room. And when he made himself low, the wrath of the Lord was turned back from him, and complete destruction did not come on him, for there was still some good in Judah. So King Rehoboam made himself strong in Jerusalem and was ruling there. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he was ruling for 17 years in Jerusalem, the town which the Lord had made his out of all the tribes of Israel, to put his name there, and his mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonite woman, and he did evil because his heart was not true to the Lord. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not recorded in the words of Shemaiah the prophet and Iddo the seer? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. And Rehoboam went to rest with his fathers, and was put into the earth in the town of David, and Aviah his son became king in his place. Chapter 13. In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, Aviah became king over Judah. He was king in Jerusalem for 3 years. His mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. And there was war between Aviah and Jeroboam. And Aviah went out to the fight with an army of men of war, 400,000 of his best men, and Jeroboam put his forces in line against him, 800,000 of his best men of war. And Aviah took up his position on Mount Zemaraim, in the hill country of Ephraim, and said, "Give ear to me, O Jeroboam and all Israel. Is it not clear to you that the Lord, the God of Israel, gave the rule over Israel to David and to his sons forever, by an agreement made with salt? But Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, the servant of Solomon, the son of David, took up arms against his Lord. And certain foolish and good-for-nothing men were joined with him, and made themselves strong against Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, when he was young and untested and not able to keep them back. And now it is your purpose to put yourselves against the authority which the Lord has put into the hands of the sons of David, and you are a very great number, and you have with you the gold oxen which Jeroboam made to be your gods. And after driving out the priests of the Lord, the sons of Aaron and the Levites, have you not made priests for yourselves as the people of other lands do? So that anyone who comes to make himself priest by offering an ox or 7 sheep, may be a priest of those who are no gods. But as for us, the Lord is our God, and we have not been turned away from him. We have priests who do the work of the Lord, even the sons of Aaron and the Levites in their places, by whom burnt offerings and perfumes are sent up in smoke before the Lord every morning and every evening. And they put out the holy bread on its table and the gold support for the lights with its light burning every evening, for we keep the orders given to us by the Lord our God, but you have gone away from him. And now God is with us at our head, and his priests with their loud horns sounding against you. O children of Israel, do not make war on the Lord, the God of your fathers, for it will not go well for you." But Jeroboam had put some of his men to make a surprise attack on them from the back. So some were facing Judah and others were stationed secretly at their back. And Judah, turning their faces, saw that they were being attacked in front and at the back, and they gave a cry for help to the Lord, while the priests were sounding their horns. And the men of Judah gave a loud cry, and at their cry, God put fear into Jeroboam and all Israel before Aviah and Judah. And the children of Israel went in flight before Judah, and God gave them up into their hands. And Aviah and his people put them to death with great destruction. 500,000 of the best of Israel were put to the sword. So at that time the children of Israel were overcome, and the children of Judah got the better of them, because they put their faith in the Lord, the God of the fathers. And Aviah went after Jeroboam and took some of his towns, Bethel with its small towns and Jeshanah with its small towns and Ephron with its small towns. And Jeroboam did not get back his power again in the lifetime of Aviah, and the Lord sent death on him. But Aviah became great, and had 14 wives, and became the father of 22 sons and 16 daughters. And the rest of the acts of Aviah, and his ways and his sayings, are recorded in the account of the prophet Iddo. Chapter 14. So Avdiah went to rest with his fathers, and they put him into the earth in the town of David, and Asa his son became king in his place. In his time the land was quiet for 10 years. And Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. For he took away the altars of strange gods and the high places, and had the upright stones broken and the wood pillars cut down, and he made Judah go after the Lord, the God of their fathers, and keep his laws and his orders. And he took away the high places and the sun images from all the towns of Judah, and the kingdom was quiet under his rule. He made walled towns in Judah, for the land was quiet and there were no wars in those years, because the Lord had given him rest. He said to Judah, "Let us make these towns, building walls round them with towers and doors and locks. The land is still ours, because we have been true to the Lord our God. We have been true to him and he has given us rest on every side." So they went on building and all went well for them. And Asa had an army of 300,000 men of Judah armed with body covers and spears, and 280,000 of Benjamin armed with body covers and bows. All these were men of war. And Zerah the Ethiopian, with an army of 1,300,000 war carriages, came out against them to Mareshah. And Asa went out against him, and they put their forces in position in the valley north of Mareshah. And Asa made prayer to the Lord his God and said, "Lord, you only are able to give help against the strong. To him who has no strength, come to our help, O Lord our God, for our hope is in you, and in your name we have come out against this great army. O Lord, you are our God, let not man's power be greater than yours." So the Lord sent fear on the Ethiopians before Asa and Judah, and the Ethiopians went in flight. And Asa and the people who were with him went after them as far as Gerar, and so great was the destruction among the Ethiopians that they were not able to get their army together again, for they were broken before the Lord and before his army, and they took away a great amount of their goods. And they overcame all the towns round Gerar, because the Lord sent fear on them. And they took away their goods from the towns, for there were stores of wealth in them. And they made an attack on the tents of the owners of the cattle, and took away great numbers of sheep and camels and went back to Jerusalem. Chapter 15. And the Spirit of God came on Azariah, the son of Oded. And he came face to face with Asa and said to him, "Give ear to me, Asa and all Judah and Benjamin, the Lord is with you while you are with him. If your heart's desire is for him, he will be near you, but if you give him up, he will give you up. Now for a long time Israel has been without the true God, and without a teaching priest and without a law, but when in their trouble they were turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, searching after him, he let their search be rewarded. In those times there was no peace for him who went out or for him who came in, but great trouble was on all the people of the lands. And they were broken by divisions, nation against nation and town against town, because God sent all sorts of trouble on them. But be you strong and let not your hands be feeble, for your work will be rewarded." And Asa, hearing these words of Azariah, the son of Oded the prophet, took heart and put away all the disgusting things out of all the land of Judah and Benjamin, and out of the towns which he had taken from the hill country of Ephraim, and he made new again the altar of the Lord in front of the covered way of the Lord's house. And he got together all Judah and Benjamin and those of Ephraim and Manasseh and Simeon who were living with them, for numbers of them came to him out of Israel when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. So they came together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the rule of Asa. And that day they made offerings to the Lord of the things they had taken in war, 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they made an agreement to be true to the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and all their soul, and that anyone, small or great, man or woman, who was not true to the Lord, the God of Israel, would be put to death. And they made an oath to the Lord, with a loud voice, sounding wind instruments and horns. And all Judah was glad because of the oath, for they had taken it with all their heart, turning to the Lord with all their desire, and he was with them and gave them rest on every side. And Asa would not let Maacah, his mother, be queen, because she had made a disgusting image for Asherah, and Asa had her image cut down and broken up and burned by the stream Kidron. But the high places were not taken away out of Israel, but still the heart of Asa was true to the Lord all his life. He took into the house of God all the things which his father had made holy and those which he himself had made holy, silver and gold and vessels. And there was no more war till the 35th year of the rule of Asa. Chapter 16. In the 36th year of the rule of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah, building Ramah so that no one was able to go out or into. Asa, king of Judah. Then Asa took silver and gold out of the stores of the Lord's house and of the king's storehouse, and sent to Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, at Damascus, saying, "Let there be an agreement between me and you as there was between my father and your father. See, I have sent you silver and gold. Go and put an end to your agreement with Baasha, king of Israel, so that he may give up attacking me." And Ben-Hadad did as King Asa said, and sent the captains of his armies against the towns of Israel, attacking Ijon and Dan and Abel-Maim, and all the store towns of Naphtali. Then Baasha, hearing of it, put a stop to the building of Ramah, and let his work come to an end. Then King Asa, with all Judah, took away the stones and wood with which Baasha was building Ramah, and he made use of them for building Geba and Mitzpah. At that time Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, "Because you have put your faith in the king of Aram and not in the Lord your God, the army of the king of Aram has got away out of your hands. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubim a very great army, with war carriages and horsemen more than might be numbered? But because your faith was in the Lord, he gave them up into your hands. For the eyes of the Lord go this way and that, through all the earth, letting it be seen that he is the strong support of those whose hearts are true to him. In this you have done foolishly, for from now you will have wars." Then Asa was angry with the seer, and put him in prison, burning with wrath against him because of this thing. And at the same time Asa was cruel to some of the people. Now the acts of Asa, first and last, are recorded in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. In the 39th year of his rule, Asa had a very bad disease of the feet, but he did not go to the Lord for help in his disease, but to medical men. So Asa went to rest with his fathers, and death came to him in the 41st year of his rule. And they put him into the resting place which he had made for himself in the town of David, in a bed full of sweet perfumes of all sorts of spices, made by the perfumer's art. And they made a great burning for him. Chapter 17. And Jehoshaphat his son became king in his place, and made himself strong against Israel. He put forces in all the walled towns of Judah, and responsible chiefs in the land of Judah and in the towns of Ephraim, which Asa his father had taken. And the Lord was with Jehoshaphat, because he went in the early ways of his father, not turning to the Baals, but turning to the God of his father and keeping his laws, and not doing as Israel did. So the Lord made his kingdom strong, and all Judah gave offerings to Jehoshaphat, and he had great wealth and honor. His heart was lifted up in the ways of the Lord, and he went so far as to take away the high places and the wood pillars out of Judah. In the 3rd year of his rule he sent Ben-Hail and Obadiah and Zechariah and Nethanel and Micaiah, his captains, as teachers into the towns of Judah, and with them, Shemaiah and Nethaniah and Zebadiah and Asahel and Shemramoth and Jehonathan and Adonijah and Tobijah and Tobadonijah, the Levites, and Elishama and Jehoram the priests. And they gave teaching in Judah and had the book of the law of the Lord with them, They went through all the towns of Judah teaching the people, and the fear of the Lord was on all the kingdoms of the lands round Judah, so that they made no wars against Jehoshaphat. And some of the Philistines took offerings to Jehoshaphat, and made him payments of silver, and the Arabians gave him flocks, 7,700 sheep, and 7,700 he-goats. Jehoshaphat became greater and greater, and made strong towers and store towns in Judah. He had much property in the towns of Judah. He had forces of armed men, great and strong, in Jerusalem. This is the number of them, listed by their families: the captains of thousands of Judah, Adnah, the captain, and with him 300,000 men of war. Second to him Jehohanan, the captain, and with him 280,000. After him Amasiah, the son of Zichri, who freely gave himself to the Lord, and with him 200,000 men of war. And the captains of Benjamin, Eliada, a great man of war, and with him 200,000 armed with bows and body covers. And after him Jehozabad, and with him 180,000 trained for war. These were the men who were waiting on the king, in addition to those placed by the king in the walled towns through all Judah. Chapter 18. Now Jehoshaphat had great wealth and honor, and his son was married to Ahab's daughter. And after some years he went down to Samaria to see Ahab. And Ahab made a feast for him and the people who were with him, putting to death great numbers of sheep and oxen, and he got Jehoshaphat to go with him to Ramoth-Gilead. For Ahab, king of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, "Will you go with me to Ramoth-Gilead?" And he said, "I am as you are, and my people as your people. We will be with you in the war." Then Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, "Let us now get directions from the Lord." So the king of Israel got together all the prophets, 400 men, and said to them, "Am I to go to Ramoth-Gilead to make war or not?" And they said, "Go up, for God will give it into the hands of the king." But Jehoshaphat said, "Is there no other prophet of the Lord here from whom we may get directions?" And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "There is still one man by whom we may get directions from the Lord, but I have no love for him, because he has never been a prophet of good to me, but only of evil. He is Micaiah, the son of Imlah." And Jehoshaphat said, "Let not the king say so." Then the king of Israel sent for one of his unsexed servants and said, "Go quickly and come back with Micaiah, the son of Imlah." Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, were seated on their seats of authority, dressed in their robes, by the doorway into Samaria, and all the prophets were acting as prophets before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, made himself iron horns and said, "The Lord says, pushing back the Arameans with ease, you will put an end to them completely." And all the prophets said the same thing, saying, "Go up to Ramoth-Gilead, and it will go well for you, for the Lord will give it into the hands of the king." Now the servant who had gone to get Micaiah said to him, "See now, all the prophets with one voice are saying good things to the king, so let your words be like theirs, and say good things." And Micaiah said, "By the living Lord, whatever the Lord says to me I will say." When he came to the king said to him, "Micaiah, are we to go to Ramoth-Gilead to make war or not?" And he said, "Go up, and it will go well for you, and they will be given up into your hands." And the king said to him, "Have I not, again and again, put you on your oath to say nothing to me but what is true in the name of the Lord?" Then he said, "I saw all Israel wandering on the mountains like sheep without a keeper, and the Lord said, These have no master, let them go back, every man to his house in peace." And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Did I not say that he would not be a prophet of good to me, but of evil?" Then he said, "Give ear now to the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord seated on his seat of power, and all the army of heaven in their places, at his right hand and at his left. And the Lord said, How may Ahab, king of Israel, be tricked into going up to Ramoth-Gilead to his death?" And one said one thing and one another. Then a spirit came forward and took his place before the Lord and said, I will get him to do it by a trick. And the Lord said to him, How? And he said, I will go out and be a spirit of deceit in the mouth of all his prophets. And the Lord said, Your trick will have its effect on him, go out and do so. And now, see, the Lord has put a spirit of deceit in the mouth of these prophets of yours, and the Lord has said evil against you. Then Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, came near and gave Micaiah a blow on the side of his face, saying, Where is the Spirit of the Lord whose word is in you? And Micaiah said, Truly, you will see on that day when you go into an inner room to keep yourself safe. And the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah and send him back to Amon, the ruler of the town, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, By the king's order this man is to be put in prison, and given prison food till I come back in peace. And Micaiah said, If you come back at all in peace, the Lord has not sent his word by me. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth-Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will make a change in my clothing, so that I do not seem to be the king, and will go into the fight. But do you put on your robes? So the king of Israel made a change in his dress, and they went to the fight. Now the king of Aram had given orders to the captains of his war carriages, saying, Make no attack on small or great, but only on the king of Israel. So when the captains of the war carriages saw Jehoshaphat, they said, It is the king of Israel. And turning about, they came round him. But Jehoshaphat gave a cry, and the Lord came to his help, and God sent them away from him. Now when the captains of the war carriages saw that he was not the king of Israel, they went back from going after him. And a certain man sent an arrow from his bow without thought of its direction, and gave the king of Israel a wound where his breastplate was joined to his clothing. So he said to the driver of his war carriage, Go to one side and take me away out of the army, for I am badly wounded. But the fight became more violent while the day went on, and the king of Israel was supported in his war carriage facing the Arameans till the evening, and by sundown he was dead.